Yeah, she a whipper. We get asked all the time what it's like when a child gets brought to your home for the first time. And I want to share with you a story about one of our children that came into our home in foster care, whom we have now adopted. And he has taken our last name. But I want to tell you the story of the day he first came. So it's an ongoing joke between my wife and our social worker and myself that my wife is never allowed to go to any kind of beauty pageants, county fairs, or women's conferences or retreats, because every single time she does, they call for placement and she's like, yes, yes, yes. And that child shows up either in her absence or she is getting ready to walk out the door. And those few moments are crazy. They are always wild. The kid comes in, social workers are telling you everything about the child, and a lot of times the stuff that they're telling you doesn't match what they told you in the beginning when they were seeking placement. Not because they weren't being truthful, it was only because they were just sharing what they were given. It's a very high intense moment in these situations, so you just have to kind of roll with it. Well, this child comes into the house and he's 5 years old, and two social workers bring him and drop him off, and they're like, good luck. This kid is a handful. He bites, he punches. Y'all, this kid called me every name you can imagine. This kid taught me stuff. I worked in factories for like 11 years of my adult life. This kid said things to me that I have never heard. He put words together that I have never heard put together. I have never been threatened to be jumped, slapped, kicked, and punched so many times in my life. This kid spit on me. He growled at me. He cold shouldered me. He stepped up to me, if you know what I'm saying. He's like, yeah. I mean, this kid put his finger in my face, and I'm not saying he called me number one, but he let me know repeatedly that I was number one, if you catch what I'm saying. This kid was wild off the chain. And this day taught me something very, very, very important. You know, at first I was like, my gosh, this kid's off the chain, but my heart broke for this child because all I could think was, how could somebody instill this in this child? How could somebody equip this child to respond with these very, very, very specific things? Some of it was funny and humorous as I look back because there's been so much change in him. But this kid, he came in and I videoed him because I'm like, my wife is not going to believe me. Because again, she wasn't here. But I'm like, my wife is not going to believe me. So I videoed him, okay? He's in the middle of our living room floor and he's dancing. And he is dancing not appropriate ways for a 5-year-old, I tell you that. It wasn't anything like totally crazy, but it caught me off guard. So I videoed it and sent it to my wife. And I was like, you know, do we need to, like, I don't know. Do we need to talk to him that we don't do that? Like, what if he does that in public? Like, it wasn't anything like risky or anything like that. It was just a little bit further in the dance world than we're used to in this house. And I asked him and I was like, dude, where did you learn that? And he looks at me and he says, again, y'all, when you got foster kids in your house, they come from all different situations. Be prepared for anything to come out of their mouth. This kid looks at me and he says, my mom. And I was like, your mom taught you that? He's like, yeah, she a whipper. So yeah, that happened. But fast forward just a few weeks, like we noticed change in this boy within 24 hours. He was no longer cussing at us. He was no longer flipping me the bird. He was no longer growling. He did get worked up, but we sit down with him and he said, buddy, what's the difference? You know, what inside of you changed? Why are you reacting to us differently? Why do you seem okay? Why are you smiling more? And he looked at us and he said, my heart changed. Of course, you know, we laughed and cried at the same time. But the realization that these kids come into your house with so much trauma attached. And, you know, let's not just label these kids as the ones with trauma. We all have trauma. And one thing as a foster parent, when these kids come into your home and they bring their trauma into your house, you may not be ready for it, but your traumas that you didn't know existed might come out. And so you're all going to have to work through all these things. But these kids come into your house and they're scared to death. They feel threatened and they're acting out what they don't talk out. And these kids don't feel safe with you. They feel threatened by you. So they're not going to sit and talk these things out. They're going to act it out, and they're going to revert to the behaviors that they're used to being modeled for them before they came into your home. So just be patient with the children and just start logging all of your stories of when these children came into your house, what it was like, and share it with other families. Let them know they're not alone. But listen, this isn't just for foster care. This is for all of us. We all act out what we don't talk out.